let's go over the materials that we're going to need for this super quick project. It's not very much, and you'll find that this is going to be extremely quick to cut out. Really, there's only two main pieces. So I'll start with that. I have my main outer piece, which I'm using some vinyl, which I have interfaced with a heavyweight interfacing. I have a lining piece, which I have interfaced with a woven interfacing. And as you can see, I have adjusted the pattern to cut my interfacing so it is out of the seam allowance. The other fabric I need, I'm using just a couple of pieces of cotton woven fabric to use for binding my boxed edges on the inside. I am using some zipper tape. I have 2 zipper pulls, and you have the option to use either 2 or 1 zipper pull, but I'm going to use 2. And I have some double-sided tape, scissors as usual, some rulers, and that's really it. So as you can see, there's not much to this bag, but it's a really classy looking little bag that is going to be extremely quick to sew up, and I think great for craft fairs as a lower cost item and something that you can sew up quickly if you need a lot of them. All right, so the very first thing I need to do is to get my zipper prepared. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set aside my lining piece for now. And I'm going to separate the zipper completely. And if you haven't already done so, you should mark your centers. I have not done that already, so I am going to go ahead and make a little notch and mark my centers. Got my center notches, and I am also going to mark the center of my zipper tape. Now I should have done this before I separated the zipper, which was a little bit of an oversight. I'm going to mark my centers now, and hopefully it will work out in the end. I have just a little marking pen. This is a heat erasable marking pen. I'm going to mark on both sides so it's visible, and I will mark the other half of the zipper. Okay. Mark, and a mark there. So I have my centers marked on the zipper, and the next step is going to be to place some double-sided tape. Now this is going to really help us when we install the zipper to make sure everything lines up the way we need it to line up. So what I'm going to do is start on one edge of my outer piece of vinyl, and I'm using 1/8 inch double-sided tape. And I'm going to just start at the edge. It's very sticky. And right up on the edge of my vinyl, I'm just going to work this double-sided tape all the way around the 2 curved edges of the pouch. This is just going to help us place our zipper tape really nicely and have it stay in place where we want it to stay. So the double-sided tape will fight you going around these corners a little bit. Just bend it to your will, make it do what you want. Because in the end we are going to be peeling up the paper, and the tape will bend the way we need it to. Great. Okay, so I have one edge done, and I'm going to go ahead and tape the other curved edge, and I will come back to you. All right, so now that I have double-sided tape placed on both curved edges, we're going to start with one edge, and I'm just making sure it's stuck down really well. And I'm going to take 1/2 of the zipper, and what we are going to do is take the center of our zipper, and starting at the center, we're going to line that up first and stick it down with the double-sided tape, and you will likely have some extra zipper left over at the edge. That's okay. We can always trim that later. The biggest challenge of this is going to be getting the paper off the double-sided tape. There we go. All right, so I've peeled away my double-sided tape, and that will also expose my little center notch because it's clear. And with the zipper right side down, match up your center mark. And now we are going to work from the center around the edge, placing your zipper tape right side down on the right side of your zipper pouch. Now, because zipper tape has a lot of bias, it should curve around that edge quite nicely. Okay, so I've got one side that went around that curve very nicely, and I'm going to just work the other side. So I have cut my zipper tape much too long. As you can see, I've got probably 4 inches, but that's okay. That will just allow me extra space to put on my zipper pulls when we're finished placing and sewing our zipper in. Now, I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side, starting with my center mark and placing the other half of the zipper tape right side down, matching up my center, and then we are going to get to sewing the zipper on. Okay, so now that I have my zipper stuck down with double-sided tape on both sides, you do have the option to baste this down before you put the lining on if you wish. However, I'd rather do it in just one step to make it quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lining piece, and I'm also going to mark the centers on my lining, which I should have done before, but I did not. And starting the same way we put down the zipper, I'm going to start at the center and I'm going to clip my lining piece around that top curved edge with the right side of my lining facing down. I'm going to match up my center mark and place a clip. And then I'm going to work from the center out on both sides of the edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other edge. All right, so I have that entire edge clipped, and now I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And I will come back to you when we're ready to sew this up. All right, so I am ready to sew these curved edges, and you should have the zipper sandwiched between your main outer piece and your lining piece. Now, because my domestic machine allows me to move my needle all the way over to the left, I have done that so that I can get as close to that zipper tape as possible. If you do not have the ability to do that, you may need to use a zipper foot here in order to get close enough to the zipper. So I'm going to line up my foot, and what should happen, because I was able to line that up all the way to the edge of the zipper tape, my foot is going to ride along the edge of the zipper tape. So I'll be able to make sure that I have a nice clean stitch line all the way around the zipper. All right, let's get started. into that last curve. So what I'm doing is I'm feeling with my fingers the edge of that zipper tape to make sure I'm not sewing over it, but that my foot, it remains butted right up against it. This is not super tricky, but the more consistent your stitch line is here, the nicer your pouch is going to turn out, and the curves will look really nice. You take your time here to make sure that you have a straight, consistent stitch line. Okay, so that went very well, and I can see that I got a really nice, consistent stitch line all the way around. My curve looks good, my lining looks good. So I am going to go ahead and do that on the other side, and then I will come back to you and we will begin the final assembly of the bag. Now what we have is our zipper that has been sandwiched in between your lining and your exterior fabric. You could choose to use picking shears on these corners. I'm a little leery of doing that only because there is zipper tape sandwiched in here, and I don't want that to unravel and come apart on me in my bag. You could alternatively also make a couple of little snips here and possibly burn the zipper tape down. I'm just slightly worried that that might actually cause the bag to unravel at some point. So I am not going to use the pinking shears like I thought I might. So the next step is we need to turn this bag to the right side so we can reach in and gently flip this bag out, and we need to install our zipper pulls. And I'm going to get a good look at my corners here and make a decision. Do I need to make any snips in my curves? I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be just fine. So before I put my zipper pulls on, what I'm going to do is top stitch the curved edges. So what you should have now is your lining on the inside, your zipper is installed, and you should have some nice clean curves at the top. So I'm going to spend a little time pressing these seams down. I may get my seam roller out. This is vinyl that I do not want to iron, so I am going to just spend some time working these seams to make sure that they're nice and flat. And then I'm going to top stitch along this both top edges with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so I am going to get ready to top stitch. So I have changed my stitch length to 4. And what I'm going to do is move my needle all the way over to the right this time, because of the direction that I am top stitching. And that will allow my foot to ride right along this edge and give me a nice close top stitch. I'm going to put my foot down and then my needle down. And so now I'm going to top stitch while making sure that my lining is lying nice and flat, and I'm kind of pulling just gently on the zipper tape to make sure that it's sitting nice and flat. Okay, so I'm back and I have top stitched both top edges. And now what we need to do is install our zipper pulls. If you are using 2 zipper pulls like I am going to install one on the right side up to the center, and then I'm going to install the other one from the left side up to the center. So the trick to this is to make sure that you have your pouch lined up, centered, and that your edges are lined up correctly and your zipper tape is lined up correctly. So I'm just doing a double check to make sure that everything is going to sit nicely. And I'm actually going to place a clip to hold those edges together correctly, just to make sure that my zipper tape lines up the way I need it to. And I am going to take my first zipper pull and make sure that the zipper is laying the way it should. Yeah, that's perfect. Beautiful. And I will put one side in, the second side in, bear with me a moment. Okay, I'm going to lay it down and pull that zipper on. So I've got one side on, and now I'm going to go to the other side, making sure that my edges are matched up and lined up correctly, and install the zipper on the other side. Okay, so I hope you'll forgive me. I didn't want you to have to struggle watching me put that on, but as you can see, I have the zipper now installed and they meet perfectly with no bubble in the middle. And you can kind of see what our pouch is going to look like in the end. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just place a clip on the end here so that my zipper doesn't come flying off the ends. We will trim this zipper tape very shortly. And I'm going to open both zippers. And we're going to flip our pouch inside out. And we are going to box our corners. So I do need to zip them up just a little bit so I can see what we're doing here. All right, so what we need to do now is we need to flatten out our side edges so that the angles meet correctly. So you should have a nice straight edge. So you should have a nice straight edge like so, and you will have extra zipper tape. And I'm going to clip that in place. It doesn't move on me. Oh, goodness. Okay. So as you can see, I have a nice straight edge here, and I do have extra zipper tape that I will trim. But what I'm going to do is clip both sides, making sure that it is matched up at the same angle, and I'm going to sew across this edge at about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch. And I'm going to do this for both sides. So again, I'm pressing out these edges and making sure that they line up nice and straight, and clipping them. And I'm going to sew all the way across, and it's going to be absolutely fine if you're using nylon zipper tape to sew across the zipper teeth. Okay, here we go. And you do want to make sure that you are back stitching here. Okay, so I sewed about 3/8 of an inch, and I'm actually going to run a second line of stitching just to make sure that this edge is reinforced. All right, so now that that is sewn up, I can go ahead and trim my zipper tape flush with that edge. So I could have cut my zipper a little bit shorter. I did have quite a bit of extra, but it also made my life easier when I was putting on the zipper pulls. All these threads. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other edge. All right, and I will trim my zipper tape. And we have one last step, and that is going to be to place the binding on our edges. So I'm going to trim down these edges a little bit, get rid of a little bit of bulk. And because I did just cut through my zipper tape on this edge, I am going to burn the edge just to make sure that that never unravels. I've already trimmed the sides. Okay. All right, so the last step is I have already cut some pieces. They were about 1.5 inches, and I folded them in half. And now, as I'm looking at this on second thought, it feels like it might be a little bit much. So I'm going to trim these down so that it is about 5/8 of an inch when folded. Now, these are much longer than what I need for the binding, but we'll just I can just trim them when I'm finished. Okay, that's better. So it's about a 1-inch piece folded in half. I've already pressed these, and I am just going to place this over the ends and clip in place. It's okay if there's some overhang here. Nobody is ever going to see that inside your bag. And I'm just going to trim that down when I'm finished sewing. Okay. And then I'm going to just sew this down at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of my binding piece. I'm just going to go ahead and clip the other side while we're here. Okay, so I have the binding placed on both ends, and I'm going to sew this down, and then I'm going to trim the edge. So I have my binding on, and all we have left to do now is to turn our bag out and see what we've got. Make sure you poke your corners out really nicely and tuck that binding in to the corners. Okay, so as you can see on the inside of the bag, even though those corner edges were raw, you can't really tell when you're looking on the inside of the bag. So if you just tuck them in really nicely, push out your corners so they are nice sharp corners. And we are going to zip up our little bag. Oh, the zipper pull is stuck on the inside. And there we have the cutest little Logi or Logi, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, pouch. So I want to thank Nicole Barber for this amazing free pattern. It would be absolutely amazing to make up for craft fairs, little makeup bags. You could size this up quite easily by just increasing the percentage when you print your pattern. So you could increase it to 110 or 125 to make a slightly larger pouch. But it is absolutely adorable, and it's sleek and it's elegant, and it's one of my best sellers. So I really hope you enjoyed watching this quick little tutorial, and go out and make a whole bunch of these. If you would like the pattern for this, please visit OK Sew, Nicole Barber's YouTube channel, and she has 3 beautiful tutorials on this bag, probably much better than what I can show you, and different options. She has options for turning the bag, and also the version I've done, a version for clear pouches. So go check out her tutorials as well. And you can download this pattern from her. She has, I will put the link in the description of this video for her where you can find the pattern. And she also includes all the links in the description of her videos. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.